When we talk about attraction, most people think of it as something external, something we do to make someone else feel drawn to us. But in truth, attraction isn't about trying harder to win someone over. It's about becoming a person who naturally pulls others toward them. And that begins with one important change, shifting the focus away from him and back onto yourself. The moment you move your energy away from trying to get him back, you regain your power. This isn't about ignoring him or playing hard to get. It's about realizing that attraction is strongest when it happens naturally, when it comes from an inner confidence, a calm presence that doesn't need approval. The problem most people face when they try to attract someone again is that their energy feels desperate. It's focused on what's missing. How do I make him miss me? How do I remind him of what we had? But the truth is, when you obsess over someone who's pulling away, you make yourself smaller. You become reactive instead of leading. And nothing is less appealing than a person whose energy is chasing instead of guiding. Think about the people in your life who fascinate you the most. They aren't the ones constantly looking for attention. They're the ones so involved in their own lives, so connected to their purpose, that you want to be around them. Their energy draws you in. Not because they are trying to impress, but because they radiate something rare, self-contentment. Now apply that to your situation. If he has pulled away, if he seems less interested, if you feel like the spark you once had is fading, the worst thing you can do is center your energy on him. Instead, shift the focus back to yourself. What does that look like? It looks like reconnecting with the things that made you feel alive before he came into your life. It looks like investing in your growth, your fitness, your hobbies. It means reminding yourself that your life was full and happy before him, and it will be full and happy whether he stays or not. And here's the interesting part. The moment you stop making him the center of your emotional world, he begins to notice the change. He senses that the version of you who was once so available and eager is now acting differently. Human nature draws us to what seems valuable, what feels just out of reach. This isn't about trickery. It's about understanding a basic truth of attraction. When something is too easy to get, it's often taken for granted. But when something is scarce, when it holds its own value without depending on someone else, it becomes much more desirable. This works because it's not a fake act. It's a real change in how you live your life. If you do this just to get a reaction from him, it won't work the same way because deep down you'll still want his approval. The key is to truly invest in yourself, not to make him jealous or regret losing you, but because you deserve it. There's a strong idea in psychology called the scarcity principle. It means we place higher value on things that are rare or hard to get. Think about an exclusive event, a limited edition item, or a person who seems naturally confident and independent. They don't beg for attention. Their presence alone commands it. Now ask yourself, which version of you is more valuable? The one waiting, hoping, overthinking, or the one living fully, moving forward and radiating energy that draws people in? Here's the paradox. The more you try to prove your worth to someone, the less they feel it. But when you stop proving and just start being, that's when the shift happens. If you really want to attract someone again, the first and most important step is to become the best, most fulfilled version of yourself without them. This doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care more about yourself than about convincing someone to choose you. And ironically, that's what makes people want to choose you. So if you're wondering, how do I make him regret pulling away? How do I make him feel what I'm feeling? The answer isn't in a message or waiting for his attention. It's in shifting your focus inward. Because when you do that, when you truly embody confidence, happiness, and self-worth, you won't need to chase anyone. They will notice the difference. And that's when they come to you. You can't force someone to see your value, but you can make it impossible for them to ignore it. One of the most powerful changes you can make when trying to attract someone without chasing is learning to communicate in a way that sparks curiosity instead of pressure. Most people think attraction means constant reassurance, proving their worth, reminding the other person what they're missing, or showing how much they care. But true attraction isn't built just by words. It's built by emotional experience. How you make someone feel when they're with you. Here's where most people go wrong. When they sense someone pulling away, their first instinct is to close the distance. They try to remind the other person of what they had. They explain too much, try too hard, or try to recreate closeness that no longer exists. But this actually pushes the other person farther away. When you force an emotional connection before someone is ready to feel it again, it doesn't bring them closer, it pushes them away. Think about the last time someone tried too hard to win you over. Maybe it was a friend who kept texting even when you didn't want to talk. Maybe it was a date who acted too eager before you were sure about them. How did that make you feel? Probably pressured, resistant, maybe annoyed. That's because people resist anything that feels forced. So if you want to attract someone, again, you must resist the urge to force it. Stop trying to recreate the past and instead focus on creating a new emotional experience, one that naturally draws them in without making them feel obligated to respond. The key is learning subtlety. Instead of pushing for connection, plant seeds of curiosity. Make them feel something, not by pushing, but by being just intriguing enough to make them want to reach out. How does this look in real life? Imagine you run into this person or exchange a short message. Instead of sending an emotional plea like, "I miss you, do you ever think about us?" say something that sparks curiosity, something playful, something that gives them just enough to be interested but not certain. For example, if you're texting, don't send a long emotional message. Say something like, "You'll never guess what just reminded me of you." Then pause and wait for them to ask, "What was it?" Now you've flipped the dynamic. They're leaning in, curious, engaging with you. When you reply, keep it light. Maybe it's an inside joke or something funny. The point is, you're not overwhelming them with emotion. You're just creating a little moment, a tiny interaction that reminds them of how it feels to be around you. Because here's the truth. People don't just miss a person's presence. They miss how that person made them feel. The laughter, the excitement, the unpredictability that kept things interesting. That's what you want to bring back. Not through effort, but through your energy. A good way to understand this is by thinking about movies. What makes a story interesting? It's not when everything is clear and predictable, when all emotions are handed to you on a silver plate. It's the tension, the build-up, the curiosity that makes you lean in. That's how attraction works too. If someone already knows exactly how you feel, what you're thinking, and where they stand with you, there's no mystery left. But if you create some space, give them just enough to wonder, to question, to remember, that's when their mind starts filling in the blanks. This isn't about playing games. It's about understanding human psychology. People value what they have to earn. When they feel like they're earning your attention, when they get glimpses of something exciting, but not everything at once, they naturally become more interested. That's just how brains work. The best part is, when you communicate this way, not out of need, but out of confidence, you start enjoying the process. You stop anxiously waiting for a reply. Instead, you see attraction as something you can influence. Because when you stop giving everything away, when you stop over-explaining or proving yourself, You create space for the other person to feel drawn to you. Thank you. So if you want to attract him without chasing, remember, less is more. The less pressure you put on the interaction, the more freely attraction grows. The less you try to convince, the more they start to wonder. And when someone begins wondering about you again, you've already won half the battle. Attraction isn't about proving your worth. It's about knowing your worth so deeply that you become someone worth chasing. When you master this, when you lead with confidence instead of need, people feel the difference and they come to you. One of the biggest misunderstandings about attraction is the idea that you have to do something special to make someone want you again. People believe they must send the perfect message, wear the perfect outfit, or create the perfect moment to spark desire. But real attraction, the kind that lasts, doesn't come just from actions. It comes from energy, from how you carry yourself, the small changes in your presence that make someone see you in a new light without even knowing why. Here's the paradox. The more you try to win someone over by proving yourself, the more they take you for granted. When someone senses you're seeking their approval or waiting on their response, they unconsciously label you as chasing, not someone to chase. This is where most people get stuck. They think that if they just try harder, if they show their value more, the other person will realize what they lost. But that's not how attraction works. Attraction isn't made by effort, it's made by space. It's made by moments when someone realizes they miss you, not because you told them to, but because you became someone worth missing. That's why the key to attracting someone without chasing is to move your focus away from them completely. Instead of pulling them back into your life, make your life so strong, so lively and so exciting that they naturally gravitate toward you. Think about it like this. People are drawn to energy, not just physical energy, but emotional energy, the kind that comes from passion, confidence, and a strong sense of self-worth. When you focus too much on someone who isn't giving you what you deserve, you lose that energy. You spend it on worries, doubts, and fears about how to get their attention, instead of putting it into things that actually make you magnetic. But the moment you change that, the moment you put your energy into yourself, everything shifts. Practically, what does it mean to put your energy into yourself? It means paying attention to the parts of your life that make you shine. Your passions, your growth, your friendships, your health, your goals. It means getting so involved in your own world that you stop needing to check if they're watching. Here's what happens then. You stop acting from a place of need and start living from a place of plenty. You go from waiting for someone else's approval to already feeling complete. People notice this. They sense when you're confident instead of insecure. And this is where real magic happens. When someone sees you thriving without them, they rethink their view of you. The person they thought was desperate for their attention no longer exists. They meet a new version of you, a version that intrigues them. Humans are wired to want what feels just out of reach. When you become less available, less focused on them, and more focused on your life, you create scarcity. Scarcity is powerful. It makes people reevaluate what they once took for granted. This is why the most attractive people aren't always the ones who look perfect or who are always around. They're the ones who seem independent, exciting, and full of purpose. They make you feel like if you don't act fast, you'll lose them to something better. And this is the energy you want to carry. Not by pretending, but by being real. Manipulation, but through real self-investment. Some people hear this and think, so I just ignore them. No. This isn't about playing games or pretending you don't care. It's about actually caring less. It's about understanding that your value isn't tied to whether or not they recognize it. And oddly enough, when you start living that truth, that's when they begin to notice it more than ever. Because here's the reality. Nothing is more attractive than someone who knows their worth and won't settle for anything less than they deserve. Nothing makes someone regret losing you quicker than realizing you're not just sitting around waiting for them. You're too busy becoming the kind of person they now wish they could have. So if you want to bring him back without chasing, stop chasing. Stop trying to make him see anything. Instead, turn all that energy inward. Focus on becoming the version of yourself that is too bright to ignore. Because when you do, you don't just make him regret losing you, you make everyone around you notice. And suddenly, it's not about whether he wants you back. It's about whether you even want him anymore. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to bring someone back is thinking the solution is in outside actions, sending the right message, looking a certain way, or acting how they think will get a reaction. But true attraction isn't built on acting, it's built on being present. It's about how you make someone feel when they're with you, and even more importantly, how they feel when you're not. One of the most overlooked parts of bringing someone back is the power of mystery. Not mystery as in playing tricks, but mystery as in being unpredictable, not always available, having a life outside of them, being someone who's always growing. Think about it. Why do we find some things so irresistible? Why does the start of a relationship feel so electric? It's because of the excitement of discovery, the unknown. You don't know what the other person will do next, what their next step will be, or what part of them you'll discover. That curiosity pulls people in. But here's what often happens. As soon as we get close to someone, we become predictable. We fall into routines. We become too available. Worst of all, we stop being exciting and challenging. And the moment that happens, we stop being chosen and start becoming taken for granted. That's why mystery is so important when trying to bring someone back. When someone expects you to answer right away and you don't, they begin to wonder. And when they think they know everything about you, but then realize there are parts of your life they don't know, they start paying attention again. When they thought they had you figured out, but suddenly they don't, that's when desire grows. Let's be clear. This isn't about tricking anyone. It's not about making someone feel unsure or playing mind games. It's about genuinely living a life so full and exciting that it naturally creates mystery. When was the last time you did something just for yourself? When was the last time you made a choice that had nothing to do with them? Something that added joy to your life. The more you build your own world, the more interesting you become. Mystery isn't about holding back. It's about growing. Growing your interests, your experiences, your conversations. It's about being someone who's not stuck in one place. Someone with many layers, always learning, always passionate, with stories that don't revolve around one person. And here's the magic. When you become this kind of person, you don't have to chase. You don't have to send desperate messages or try to force a reaction. You simply are someone worth thinking about. Someone who stays in their mind even when you're not there. Imagine this, you stop replying right away, not to play hard to get, but because you're genuinely busy with your life. You stop posting things to catch their attention and instead start doing things that excite you. You become less available, not as a trick, but because you're focused on your happiness, your growth, and suddenly they notice. They wonder what you're doing. They pay closer attention. They start questioning if they really had you the way they thought. That's when the shift happens. Because here's the truth. People don't want what they already have. They want what they feel they might lose. When you create mystery, not by faking it, but by truly living a life that doesn't revolve around them, you become someone they keep discovering. not someone they take for granted. And that keeps them coming back. So, if you want to bring him back without chasing, stop being predictable. Stop making it easy for him to take you for granted. Start becoming a version of yourself that's always changing, always surprising, always growing. Not to get his attention, but because you deserve to be someone who is endlessly fascinating. Yes, to him, but even more to yourself. One of the biggest wrong ideas people have when trying to bring someone back is thinking they need to convince the other person to want them again. That if they say the right thing, look a certain way, or prove their worth, everything will change. But attraction isn't like that. It's not logical, it's emotional. You can't talk someone into it. It's something they feel deep inside, almost instinctively. And here's the key. The moment someone feels they have you fully, without any effort, without any doubt, without fear of losing you, they stop feeling the need to act. Why would they? There's no tension, no contrast, no reason for them to question their place in your life. That's why one of the most powerful things you can do to bring him back without chasing is to create emotional contrast. To quietly change the situation so he no longer feels safe and certain, but instead starts to feel the chance of losing you, not because you're playing games, but because you are truly taking back your value. Let's break it down. What makes people feel nostalgic? What makes them want something they once had? It's never because the thing was always there. It's because it's now missing. It's the moment they realize something they took for granted might not always be there. That moment triggers one of the strongest parts of human nature, loss aversion. People will fight harder to keep something valuable than they will to get something new. That's why when you pull your energy back, not with anger, not with drama, but with quiet self-respect, it creates a shift. It forces the other person to face the chance that what they thought would always be there might not be anymore. This is where most people mess up. They think pulling back means ignoring messages, waiting a certain time to respond, or trying to make someone jealous. But these things only work for a little while and usually backfire because they come from insecurity, not strength. True emotional contrast isn't about manipulation. It's about changing inside so your outside changes naturally. It's about no longer making them the center of your world. It's about living your own life so fully that your absence is noticed without you forcing it. Because here's the truth. The hardest people to forget are the ones who leave empty spaces in our lives when they're gone. The ones who brought something unique, who made us feel something real. If you want to bring him back, your goal isn't just to remind him of your value. It's to make him feel the difference between having you fully in his life and having you gone. So how do you do that? You start by changing your usual habits. If you've been explaining too much, stop. If you've been too available, pause. If you've been bending over backward to meet his needs while ignoring your own, shift. Not to punish him, not to make him chase, but to balance the situation. Because when you stop over-giving, stop over-explaining, stop proving yourself, something strong happens. Space is created, and in that space, he begins to wonder, he starts to think, he feels the change, and that feeling is what makes someone rethink, doubt their choices, start missing what they had. The key is consistency. You can't do this for a day or two and expect everything to change. You have to really live it. You have to live in a way that shows, without saying, that your world doesn't revolve around whether he notices you. And here's the paradox. The less you try to prove your worth, the more they start to see it. The less you chase, the more they come closer. The less predictable you are, the more interesting you become. So if you want to bring him back without chasing, shift the balance. Let him feel your absence in a way that makes him realize your presence was never something to take lightly. And in that moment, you become not someone he once had, but someone he wants again. One of the most powerful truths about attraction is this: people don't fall for those who chase them, they fall for those who make them chase. But here's where many people get it wrong. They think making him chase means acting distant, playing hard to get, or using tricks. True attraction, the kind that pulls someone back without pressure, comes from inside. It comes from the energy you give off when you stop needing approval, validation, or a certain outcome. If you want to bring him back without chasing, you have to adopt a mindset of real detachment from the result. This doesn't mean you don't care. It means you don't need a specific reaction from him to feel good about yourself. And oddly, this very energy, the feeling of, I'm fine with or without you, is what makes you magnetic. Think about it. We are naturally drawn to what feels valuable. And what makes something valuable? Scarcity. Not in a fake, manipulative way, but because it's not easy to replace. Not because it's simple. When someone senses that you depend on them emotionally, that you wait for their approval to feel worthy, they see that as low value. Because something that has to be chosen isn't as attractive as something chosen freely. Now, how do you move into this mindset of true emotional independence? You do it by putting yourself first, not as a trick, but as a way of living. You stop waiting for someone to notice you and start making yourself impossible to ignore. You stop trying to prove your value and start living like you already know it. The key is momentum. When we focus on someone, waiting for their message, studying their every move, what we're really doing is standing still. We're putting our emotional energy on pause, waiting for them to act before we decide how to feel. But this is the fastest way to lose attraction, because nothing is less appealing than someone who stops living their life for another person. So instead of pausing, move forward. Fill your days with things that light you up. Talk about things that have nothing to do with him. Make plans that excite you. Not to make him jealous or prove something, but because you deserve a full life, whether he's in it or not. Here's what happens when you do this. When you turn your energy away from him and toward your own growth, he feels it. He may not say it, but deep down, he senses something is different. The person who once gave him all their attention, who made him feel like the center of their world, is now living on a different level. And that feeling that he no longer has guaranteed access to you is what makes him start paying attention. But here's the true beauty of this way. The moment you stop needing him to notice you, the moment you stop waiting for him to see your worth, you become free. You are no longer stuck in the tiring cycle of needing validation. And in that freedom, you gain something even more valuable than his attraction. You gain yourself. So if you remember just one thing from this, let it be this. You don't win by making him regret losing you. You win by becoming so fulfilled, so alive in your own life, that whether he comes back or not, doesn't matter. And strangely, that's the very energy that makes him want to be part of your life again.